Welcome to the Global Mindset University. I'm your host, Mohammed Rashid Kamal. On today's episode, we're going to discuss about the ServiceNow Scripted REST API. In this part, which is in part 2, I'm going to go ahead and demo how we can do the scripted REST API in ServiceNow. Before that, let me go ahead and revise a couple of things that we have discussed in the previous episode. So with this scripted REST API, it will let you do the API call into the outbound, and then you can get the data using the scripted REST API. So where you can be able to write your own scripts. Let's say you can do different kinds of HTTP methods, like the get method, the post method. Let's say on the get method, where you can get data from a given specific table, and then from the post you can also post the data. So it has a lot of benefit. The scripted REST API help you especially in integration, and it can also help you to do the request and response. And it also really helpful in developing a custom web service API. So those are the main things. And the other important thing that we talk, scripted REST API has a certain way of writing the URL. So you will start from the instance name, which is the instance where the company name, it can be a company name, or the URL. If you have a dev instance, that's the name over there. You put the ServiceNow, service-now.com, and you will have the namespace in the version. The namespace is basically whether it is a global or scoped, and you will have the version. And the version, like we said earlier, the version is up to you. You can use the latest version, but it is not that much required adding the version. And you have the API ID and also the relative path. So you'll put the relative path. Relative path is which is the same as with the name that you have, which is the name of the scripted REST API, the resource. So that's what you have, the related path. And there are a couple of things we need to look. One is the role and security as well. With the role, in order to work on a scripted REST API, you need to have at least the web service admin role. And security wise, we have discussed that you can do the scripted REST API, or this API, you can make it either public or you can add very high security to it. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and take you to an instance over here. This is one of my instance, the Hackathon 2020, that I have used to develop my connected health app application, the connected health app application, to come up with my innovative idea of connecting the healthcare providers with the patient with a single persona-based application. I have covered that one in I think 2 videos. You can go ahead and look at from my channel. But on today's discussion, I will walk you through how to write the scripted REST API. So how I come here, the first important thing here is on your application navigator, you go ahead and write scripted REST API. So it is under the system web service, and you will have the scripted web service, and the scripted web service is right there for you. And these scripted the scripted REST API, you'll have, these are the out of the box. ServiceNow had this out of the box scripted REST API. We can take a look, for example, the change management here, how it looks like, what the structures we have covered in detail in the first episode. We're not gonna go through in detail here. We're going to write the scripted REST API and then query the database. But before that, this scripted REST API, which is called the change management, has an API ID that is change. Like I said, the API ID is the change. We will use that one on the URL later, and it is active, and it has a read-only, which is a protection policy. So ServiceNow applied protection policy. No one can change this one because the ServiceNow, they want to make sure, they want to make this one read-only. Whenever you upgrade your instance, this is something will be taken care of by ServiceNow. So they just recently bring the protection policy on top of certain the out of the box or the baseline applications. Great. So this scripted REST API has the application, that is the scope. The application scope, you have the API namespace and the base API path. That is the path you're going to give it in your URL. Then that's the security you can apply, but by default, that's the scripted REST external default. That is the security we have. The versioning, like we said, you can add different version here, v1, v2. That's the version you have. And the content negotiation in the document, the most important thing here is under related link we have explore REST API and API analysis. I'll come back that one later. First of all, let me show you a couple of things under the resource. There are 31 resources. What does that mean? This means with this scripted REST API, it's doing 31 different operations like patch, get, post, delete. See, you're doing all of these important workers, okay, cool features using this scripted REST API. For example, one is the post configuration item. Let's go ahead and open this resource, the configuration item, which is the post. This resource, the API definition is right there. That's the name, and this name you put it here under the relative path. Actually on the relative path we have change underscore the sysid / ci. That's the method we have. The HTTP method is the post. You go ahead and post, okay? It is a request and a response, right? Now what this do is it's a post. That's the resource path, the default resource path right there. And here is the cool part, which is the script. So what did this script do is doing in a post activity or a post work using this script. So this is something we're going to write in a little bit later. So that's how we can use. So we can apply security, that's the content negotiation and the documentation as well. Great. With that said, now I'm going to take you back to the scripted REST API, and we are on the global scope. That is fine. I'm going to go ahead and create a new scripted REST API. I'll give it a name. Let's go ahead and give it a name. Let's give it a name, test REST API. Let's give it that name, test REST API. And the API ID, it will automatically apply to you, which is test underscore REST underscore API. So with underscore, it will automatically fill up for you. And the application is that where your application is currently. So I'm on the global scope, so that's automatically filled up for you. You don't need to do anything for that. And the API namespace is under SNC. Then now go ahead and save or submit this one. I wanna do save. If I submit it, I will come back to a list of that, but I just saved it. Then with that, you have security here, content negotiation, the documentation, and that's the default ACL we have. Like I said, you can keep it public or you can add more security to it. And here is the resource. Now we didn't define any resource here, but definitely we're gonna go ahead and define a couple of resources here, the gate post or patch or delete. But for time being, I'm gonna go ahead and show you, or I'll take you to create one of the resource here. So what I would do, we're gonna click here under new button. Then we'll come back with a window over here, scripted REST resource. That's the resource we have. And now we're going to specify the name. That's the method, which is the get method, but you can definitely, that's by default is a get. There's a post, put, patch, and delete. That's the commonest one is the get, but definitely if you would like to do any of those operations from the 5 HTTP method, you can do any of those one at a time. And if you'd like to have some resource, you can go ahead and get over there. So the name is something that you're going to give it. So what I would give it here, test1. Let's give it a test1 name. And the relative path, I will give it a slash test1. This is the get method. We're going to get some data. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this one. Great. Once I saved, I'll come back and now I can be able to write the script here to do my operations to be able to do the REST API call, which is the get REST API call, and the resource path is automatically filled out for you /API SNC test underscore REST API. That is the API we have, and /test1, that is the resource. So the resource name that we're going to do is a test1 and /test1. So this one, with this, the script will have two things, the request and response. Like you can see right here, this is the function process REST request, that's the REST request we have, and the REST API response. So it has the REST and response. Now we're going to start the implementation just right below here. Now,
before we proceed with the implementation resource here, writing the code, I'm going to walk you through step by step how we can write the code. But before that, let me go ahead and show you what are we going to achieve. I mean, what is our requirement? So the requirement, we have a change request. This is a table change request. I came here on the application navigator, I write change, and I select all, and from there I'm just gonna take one of the change request record. I'm gonna go ahead and open this one here, and this change request has a number, the change request number, and has an additional information requested by who requested. Okay, I've requested that Muhammad Kamal, that's me, and has a category other, and has more information like the type, standard change, and the state scheduled. Now, using a scripted REST API, the requirement asks us to get the number of the change request, which is displayed here, the displayed number, who is requesting this change, and the short description, add network switch to the cabinet, that's the short description we have, the display value of the short description, and the display value of the type of the change. This is a standard change. So how can we address? So this is the requirement we have. So achieving these requirements, we can create a scripted REST API. I'll show you how to write step by step. And again, let me go ahead and show you the URL. Let's say this is a URL. I've got one of the URL that I have tested before, and I'm going to go ahead and use incognito browser so it can let me test it. Okay, now it will ask me a username and password. In my episode 1, I have talked about the securities. What kind of security we can apply. We can make it public, available for public, or we can make for users to log in, several authentication. So that's up to us. Now I'm gonna use my username and password to log in into my Hackathon 068 ServiceNow instance. Let's go ahead and sign in. Right after I sign in, it is telling me that this is an XML, and then I have the XML result right here, which is the display value, the change number, which is the display value of the change number is that the change 007. And I have the short description, please robot applications server PeopleSoft. That's the description I have, the short description. And who is requesting? That's what we see, Muhammad Kamal. And the type of the request, which is emergency. Okay. So that's what we are expecting to have. Now, using a scripted REST API, we're gonna have, and by the way, in episode 1, I have also addressed what the URL looks like. This is the URL, what it looks like. So you will have the instance over here. Now I have the instance of the Hackathon 068. I'm using that one, and I have service-now.com. There is an API. That's the SNC. SNC is, like I said, where what scope you are in the global, or whether you are in a specific and it's in a scoped app, in a specific scoped app, and that's test REST API. That's the REST, the scripted REST API name, test REST API, and test zero is the resource. That's the resource test zero, and that's the table name is change request, and the record number is displayed here. So if you just provide to someone, you don't let them to come to your instance, okay? A good example, a good practical scenario is, let's say you are working in the government organization and you are required by another agency to provide an incident or a change completed by a given individual, okay? Or the type of emergency that is the type of emergency that you have. Okay, so you are required to do that, and what you can do, you just need to create this scripted REST API, and then you send them this one. They will have their own username and password. They logged in, and they can access that data through this scripted REST API URI. Okay, it's very easy and it's practical, and knowing this one is really important being a ServiceNow developer. So I cannot emphasize this any more longer. So you guys need to pay attention here how we can work on when I am going to start the script. Okay, with that, I'm gonna go ahead and close that one. Now I'll come back here with my scripted REST resource. So we already write the scripted REST resource, which is the name is test one. And then it's active, it's in the global application, and we're going to do is a get. That's what we did, okay? We just get that data from that change table, okay? We get that information, right? The number requested by, and also the type, which is standard, or it's gonna be emergency, whatever type of the change you have. That's what we get. So to start off, just right below the comment, the implementation resource, we're going to write a variable. We're going to write like 3 variables here. The first variable, var query params, query params, okay, query params, and we have the request. By the way, like I said, you have the request and the response. Now we're going to write the request part, okay? Request dot, and we're gonna write the query params here, okay? The query params, you just need to write the tab and it will fill up for you. That's the first variable we need. Okay, it's going to hold the request. And the second variable we need is the table name, what table we are in. Okay, like our table is change, right? Change request. So we'll have a variable to hold the table name. So we have var table name equal sign, and we'll have the query param. Query params dot table name, table name. Okay, for table name equals query params dot table name. And the third variable we need is the record, which is the record number. Var record number, var record number equals, we'll have again the query params dot record number. Okay, awesome. Once we have that, which is the first thing is we have the request param variable, and we'll have the table name, and we'll have the record number. All right. Maybe let me just go ahead and make this one bigger so you guys can follow along by retyping what am I doing right here. So that's what I advise. If you type instead of just sit down watch the video, I would advise you can try it in your instance while you are working on. You can pause the video, whichever way works for you. The next thing is we're going to go ahead and query the glide record. For that, we'll have var gr, which is the glide record, and instantiate new glide record, and here we'll have the table name. Table name. Later on, we can change it, but right now, because we're gonna try it with a scripted REST API, so now we're gonna have the table name inside and gr.query. All right. So what just we did here is we query the table name, whatever the table name will have. Later on, I'll show you how we do that. Okay, how we going to do that. Then once I have that, the table, query the table, then I will use a looping through that table. Okay, once I have the table, access the table, and then I'm gonna loop through the table. That means I will use a while loop here, a while loop, gr dot next. What did this mean? Okay, okay, we start from the first one. It will continue a loop through. Next, okay, while gr.next will continue, then I'll do something here inside. What am I gonna do? I'll do var obj. I'll have my object over here and store it with an empty array. I'll store it in an empty array, and then I'm gonna store it in an empty array and do some query here. So the first one is the obj, which is my object right there, which is the obj that display value, okay, display underscore value. I'll take the display value equals gr dot, I'll get the display value, okay, get, like I said, display value, and then I can just say enter. All right, so I'm gonna leave it empty this one because this is something we're going to get it from there. Okay, the display value, because we're gonna provide it and we'll get the display value from there, so we don't need to specify it. Then we have obj dot, because our requirement asks us to get the requested by, who's requesting this, requested by. So I have that obj dot requested underscore by, requested by. I'll go ahead and write gr dot get, again, I'm gonna go ahead and get the display value. The display value, in this case, bear with me, in this case, the display value for the requested by is, let's go ahead and check that. This is the table, okay? The display value of requested by. Let's go ahead and see. It's requested underscore by. Underscore by. So I'll go ahead and use that requested underscore by. So we are expecting to have that value here. And then let's go ahead and add for the short description. Okay, obj dot short underscore description. I don't think that's the way we can description. Okay, that's the correct way of spelling short underscore description. Whatever value we give it in our table. Okay, then we have gr dot, again, I'll get the for the short description, I'll get the display value. Get display value, and again in this case, what is the field value for the for the display value, the name of that field, the display value of the short description. So what we have here, again, it is short underscore description. Description. Great. What else we need? Let's go ahead and check our requirement. What else we need? We will get the type as well, the type of the change. So for that, we have type. Okay, that is, the field is type. The name of the field is the type. Then the same thing, we can use the obj dot, under short description, we can write the type. Okay, equals gr dot, I'll get I'll get display value. Okay, the display value of what? Again, type. Awesome. What else we need? We have got the display value of the display value. We have got the requested by. We have the short description. We have the type, the obj dot. We can add another thing over here, category. Let's go ahead and see what is category. Just category, right? Let's go ahead and add category. Obj dot category equals gr dot, I'll get the display value of what? The category. Okay, awesome. Then once I have that, that's my variable here. Once I have that, my object, I have saved everything here. Next thing, we're gonna use an if statement. Okay, we'll have a condition here. So this condition will give us, if certain things work, we'll get these things. Okay, if record number, the one that we have at the top, record number, this is the one, the record number for that given table. Okay, we have a record number equals, double equals, with what? With obj dot display value. If it is the same with the display value, so whatever record number we are providing is the same with the display value of this, then what? Okay, if we have that, we'll have what? The second part. Okay, we'll have the second part, which is the response. We'll get the response that I'll set body. I'll set the body to what? To the obj. To the obj. All right. It looks like we are almost done. So the response to obj, which is the object. So we'll display everything, whatever we have right here, whatever we requested right here, when it's fulfilled, if the record number. Okay, and the same with the display value. Awesome. Let's just do some sanity check before I run. I have the query params right here, request query params. I have the table name, query param, table name, and I have the record number, query params. I have the record number right there. Var gr new glide record at the table name jury.query, gr.query, while gr.next var object dot display underscore value. I have get the display value object requested by gr.get display value requested by, and I have of short description get display value or for the short underscore description, and I have type gr.get display value the type, and obj.category of the change, which is gr.get display value of category. And if the record number is object display value, then I will have what? The response. Awesome. Let's go ahead and record this. Let's go ahead and save. All right, there's no error. It's good. And the next thing, we're gonna go ahead and try it with Explore REST API. Perfect. In this browser right here on the REST API Explorer, we have the namespace. As you can see, the API name is test REST API. That's the API name that we are going to create, or the one that we created. Okay. And the version, like I said, the latest version I have right there. And then I have two things here on this API name, which is test REST API. Now what we are going to do is the test, which is the gates. Okay, let's go ahead and add some query here. On the first query here, I'll get the table name. Table name. What is the table name? This is change underscore request. That's the table name, change underscore request. And then what is the record number? Record number. Let's go ahead and get the record number. That's the record number we have. I'm gonna go ahead and copy that, come here and paste the record number. All right, let's see. Let's go ahead and send this one. Awesome, we get 200. Okay, the success status code is 200. That's the execution time, how long it takes to execute this REST API. These are the headers. Maybe we can come back on this detail later. The cache control, content encode, the content type, dates, when this was done, and it's going to expire in 0. That's the server, is ServiceNow. That's the server ServiceNow I'm using. All right, the transfer encoding is checked. X is logged in. Yes, it is true. I'm already logged in. X transaction ID, that's the transaction ID, specific transaction ID. Awesome. That's the REST response body we have. The display value, that's the change number I have. The requested by Muhammad Kamal. And the short description, okay, the short description of this change is add network switch to the cabinet. And I have the type, which is a standard. This is a change type that's a standard. And I have also the category, which is other. Now we can go ahead and check. So I have all those cool information the same with what I have right here. Perfect. So that's how, so next up, let me take this URL over here, the HTTP method. Like I said, in our requirement, we are asked to create a REST API, okay? REST API where someone from outside our company will have a user and logged in, and they are required to see any change, uh, any change that's happening any change that's happening for a given number. So we're gonna share this URL to our organization. Now to simulate that, I just use the incognito browser here, and I'm gonna go ahead and tap that one. This incognito already recognized me as I was logged in, so it didn't ask me a username or password here, but in normal case, you will have the username and password. It will ask you your credential before you get this one. So we didn't make this one public, but for some reason it just give us like that. But so that company will have the display value for that one, the short description, and the requested by, the standard, and other. Same thing, this is a gate. We are getting something from the API, right? The REST Explorer REST API. So that's all I have. This is in part one and part two. We just concluded the part two. So we have done, we absolutely be able to get achieve the requirement, which is the requirement ask us to go ahead and change table, change the request table and get the number, the requested by, the category, the type, and also the short description for this one. So we be able to achieve our request, the short description right there. Great. My name is Mohammed Rashid Kamal. I'm a ServiceNow developer, data scientist. So if you have any question related with ServiceNow, data science, anything related, feel free to reach us. And again, feel free to subscribe. And if you like this video, share it, like it, and hope we see you with another episode. This is Muhammad Kamal again. Have a great day, guys. Bye bye.